Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Call the meeting to order. And let's see where my agenda's run off to. There we go. Minutes, resolution 2443 to accept the minutes of February 7th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Discussion, comments? All in favor? Let's go. D, public hearing to make public comment on the proposed Somerset County Economic Development Tax Increment Financing District in portions of Johnson Mountain Township and Moxie Gore in the county's unorganized territory, which should be counties with apostrophe S.
I'll make that change.
Not plural counties.
Get right on that.
There's one territory, singular.
So when you refer to it, you refer to it as the unorganized territory.
Yeah. Which is made up of 83 townships.
That's right, it is one territory.
Wow.
We learn something every day.
Yeah, so there's another change to be made, territory.
I'm making notes.
Thank you, David.
I'm sure I won't remember that one.
The public hearing is now open for comment. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to comment? Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to comment?
There's somebody in the hall, I don't know if they're here.
There's for something else.
Yeah, there were some people out there.
Yeah, they're here for
Another item.
later item.
So-
If it's okay for the public record, I did want to just run through some of the basics.
Perfect, yeah.
Yes.
Yep, and that might spark some questions. And I do need signatures of those here, even if you're a regular, you're still part of this public hearing. So, Chris, if you could just sign and pass that around.
Somebody's phone's going off.
Yeah. It's mine.
So, notice of this public hearing was required to be a 10-day notice in a regular circulated newspaper, and we accomplished that through the Morning Sentinel. And it's also required that we have a copy of the application on hand for the last 10 days, which we've had. You have photocopies of it there, and it was also posted on our website. So I think we've met and above and beyond the public notice requirement for this that's in state statute. But just in regards to a couple of things regarding TIFs, this might be elementary for some, but it's helpful for others. Definition of terms: a tax increment financing district is a tool which a government body can use to utilate funds created by an increase in valuation due to property development. The big factor here is the original assessed value. A lot of times when you do a TIF, like the Bingham Wind TIF, the original assessed value was fairly low. It was only $800,000 of that land that the windmills were built on. And so you're capturing all that extra value. For this particular project, there's already development there along this corridor, and so the values start at a much higher point. In the case that we're looking at, about 30 to 40 million dollars is the original assessed value. And of course, the TIF district is the physical tracts of land where development takes place. I left the credit enhancement agreement language in this presentation, but I X'd it out because there is no CEA for this project. In other words, the monies collected by Maine Revenue for CMP's valuation, anything above that $30 million, $38 million of original assessed value, that's all coming to the county. None of it's going to CMP and a portion back to the taxpayer like the wind TIF. So CMP is not asking for any money back from this particular project. Thank you. So we discussed briefly at the last meeting the 5% cap on original assessed value. The total value of the UT, which is the municipality in this case, is $962 million. The existing original value that's captured is the Bingham Wind TIF of $803,000 The proposed for the two locations in Johnson Mountain and Moxie Gore are 38 million, bringing your total amount of original value captured in TIFs in the UT at 39,500,000, making up about 4.1% of that 5% cap. So there is a little wiggle room if anyone in the UT wanted to enter into a TIF agreement, but it would be less than $1 million at this point of original assessed value.
So there are not gonna be any more TIFs? I mean,
We will
Practically.
reach that cap.
yeah,
with.
once we reach the
with
cap,
this one.
it's a.
Right,
Okay.
right. So a couple things to keep in mind, you're about halfway through your Bingham Wind TIF. So the 30 years of that TIF district will sunset with Bingham, and then this one will pick up and carry that another 15 years because this will be a 30-year proposed TIF district as well. So the rationale for utilizing and targeting these two areas, Johnson Mountain and Moxie Gore, Johnson Mountain has the most actual length of the development at 12.67 miles. Of that 12.67 miles, it currently has a valuation of $28 million. I think all of Johnson Mountain's valuation is about $40 million, and so the corridor makes up 3/4 of that. Moxie Gore was another targeted area, primarily because of the work and the infrastructure they have to put in, because this is the point where they're tunneling under the river between Moxie Gore and the West Forks. So those two areas, they seem to be a good fit because they total up to a neat number that comes in under that 5% cap. And it's where we would anticipate a significant amount of growth in value to take place. So the value that they're looking at, and I don't suspect you to be able to see all of that. Yeah, this is a Patrick Dolan spreadsheet. So there's a couple of factors figured into what to anticipate for revenues to the county over the next 30 years. Talking with John Caudill at Eaton Peabody, we kind of came to a very conservative number, saying that value of 38 million goes up an additional 30 million. So based on that assumption, once the project's complete, the value is a little less than doubled in those two territories in Moxie Gore and Johnson Mountain. It's likely it could be higher than that. That's actually what happened with your Bingham Wind TIF. Some of the projections were conservative and some of the tax valuations were actually higher, resulting in a little bit more than what was anticipated. It's always good to shoot low and receive more. There's a projected tax rate that's factored into all these 30 years. That obviously can change as the Maine revenue will use different tax rates over the course of time. But the one that we're using right now is just under $8 per thousand. So based on this projection, the possibility would be to capture about $237,000 per year from this. So because of the caps, it's really not a very lucrative TIF for the county, but it is a good investment for infrastructure and other needs that the commissioners and Dave have to work through with their budgets over the years. So it kind of like I've been thinking, it kind of extends the similar kind of revenue you're making right now in the Bingham Wind TIF. Any questions at this point from either the public or the commissioners? So the other thing that requires public input and a little input from the state is how the revenue is spent. Development programs have 3 tiers. Tier 1, only within the physical boundary of the district. Outside the boundary but connected to the district is Tier 2, and then community-wide is Tier 3. The way our projects are structured in this proposal, they're all Tier 3 projects. So they're all projects that can be spent within the entirety of the unorganized territory. It would be kind of silly to do a Tier 1 project that only affects the 2,000-foot wide strip that this corridor is utilizing. So they're all Tier 3, and The first 6 are the same verbiage from the current wind TIF. Funding economic development programs, economic development support, environmental improvement projects, that's on the first page. Funding to establish support or newly established economic development grants, investments, revolving loan funds, skill development, and costs associated with quality childcare facilities. Those are all pretty much verbatim from the current Bingham Wind TIF. And I believe that the language in number 7 on recreational trails is also very close to what's in the Bingham Wind TIF. The UT of Somerset County is a tourist and recreation destination for outdoor activities that center around the quality and accessibility of recreational trail systems in the county. The last page there are items that John Pottle fashioned that fit within state statute and probably should be considered, and it's his recommendation as well as mine. Cost development, costs associated with development of fisheries, costs related to public safety buildings in the UT, costs associated with broadband, costs associated with operation and financial support of housing. We don't often think of housing in the unorganized territories, but again, if this is a tier 3 project and it can affect everything the county or UT-wide, then you've got Lexington, Concord, and those areas to think about that might benefit from housing support. Construction and renovation of the county's central administrative offices and capital costs for transit services of UT residents. So that is essentially the project list that we are proposing. One of the things that's always tricky is the state requires that your estimate of how much money you're taking in over 30 years has to be exceeded by your project budget. So that's why the total money estimated coming in is about 7 or 8 million. The project budget is about 9.9, just under 10 million. Those are projections, and so they're not hard and fast numbers. So the main two considerations in this public hearing is to hear from members of the public as to whether this district will contribute to economic growth or well-being, or whether an interested party is concerned that they'll face substantial threat or detriment to their business or property. And so that is the gist of it.
Any comments,
Well,
questions?
sometimes people, towns support TIFs because that encourages business to come in, establish business, provide jobs, and the inducement is they get the credit enhancement, they get their taxes back. But in this situation, we already have an ongoing project, which is going to happen. There's no need for any financial incentives given to CMP. The project's half done, and to me, this is sort of, I see no downside to this. I don't think anyone's being harmed by it, any existing businesses. Seems like a good thing.
I guess the only thing I see that would be missing in here would be any availability of funds to help with safety equipment like fire trucks or ambulances. We give a lot of money to trail grooming, but it would be, I think, just as important, if not more so, to be able to provide ambulance or fire truck.
We can certainly add that in.
Good point, yeah.
It should have been in the original.
I think there is some wording in the original. I'll have to make sure, I'll make sure that gets carried over.
Yeah, just maybe clarify.
Yeah. So the next steps from here is on your agenda is a resolution when we get to it. You don't have to rush to it right now.
Well, we still have our public hearing still open.
Right? I just wanted to kind of wrap up my portion by saying
Okay.
where this goes from here.
Yeah.
Assuming someone would ask, Tim, what do we do next? So if you are ready when the time comes in the agenda, there's a resolution. Freshly edited copies of that resolution, removing my typos, are on there. So what you're actually saying in the motion is to accept it as presented. So that's why we cleaned it up, so that's what's been presented to you. After that, we then go back to John Pavel at Eaton Peabody, and we tidy everything up. We make sure there's language about equipment for fire and safety in the project, and we submit that to Maine DECD. Hopefully we'll get it in the next couple of weeks.
And in that resolution, Scott, thank you, we did take care of that, what you pointed out.
Okay, so you
It's just eliminated, yeah. So, again, looking for any member of the public to see seeing none, the public hearing is now over. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. This allows members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on upcoming agenda item. Is there any member of the public that wishes to reserve time or comment? Any Zoom people? None? Seeing none, we'll move along to our workshop, discuss support letter for Register of Deeds Office regarding the Maine Revenue Services Tax Portal.
So I sent this letter out to the commissioners, and I believe as Robert serves on the Legislative Policy Committee for MCCA, he may be familiar with this discussion. There's been a discussion amongst all the registers of deeds in the state about their concern with the lack of communication from Maine Revenue regarding changes to the portal that Maine Revenue uses to collect revenue. And so, according to Maine Revenue, in October of 2024, they intend to start collecting through the portal real estate transfer taxes. Typically, right now, the real estate transfer taxes are paid to the Registry of Deeds. The Registry of Deeds then sends 90% of that to Maine Revenue, and they keep their 10%. So there's a little bit of a gap in communication. And so it's gotten to the point where you're 7-8 months away from this starting, and Maine Revenue has not informed the registries of how this is going to work, so that they can relay it to the public, relay it to the customers that do business with us. And so what the collective association of the registers of deeds has asked is that county commissioners basically sign a letter of support saying, we encourage Maine Revenue to get out ahead of this and start communicating with the Registry of Deeds so they'll know what to expect. So based on some information that was given to me by the lead person at the Registry of Deeds Association, I crafted the letter that's in front of you. And it basically covers 3 main points. Despite the formation of a implementation team in 21, there's been little communication regarding the details of this transition. Deeds office staff will require some training prior to deploying the portal in an effort to best serve the public, who will inevitably have questions. And it is assumed that Deeds office software will need to be updated, which will require training and resources. So, again, later on in the agenda, there is a resolution. If you were to support this letter, this workshop is just kind of get it out there and see if you had any questions.
Any questions or comments, or we're still pondering?
This is trying to light a fire under this. Okay, this might work, I guess.
Yeah.
No harm in trying? Is that what we're at? Okay. All for it?
Kind of lets them know that we know,
No.
that we don't know. But it's a friendly letter and just proves, makes the point. Any further discussion on this workshop? So we can move along to the budget update.
So in front of you on the desk, each of you should have a full-fledged, printed in font that you can read, budget. That is for you to take home and study and make notes on and ask yourselves questions. All in preparation of the big day coming up on March the 6th, when we'll be spending a good amount of time with each of the department heads going over these proposed budgets. So as always, there's information there as to previous years, total expenses, what we've spent so far, budget year to date. As in your packets, I just put a couple of items there just to remind you. And really the big movers in this budget, which right now is right around a 4% increase to the taxpayer. The big movers in that is the sheriff's request for an additional patrol deputy and a car to go with that. Raising the cap that the taxpayers pay as a part of the jail budget, and some restructuring to emergency management. Those are the big movers in this budget. I've had good conversations with all the department heads and Patrick, and so I'm confident in what I've given you. We can defend, but from here going forward, it's the budget process turns to you before it goes to the budget committee. And the last little thing I put in there was just one of my own I wonder spreadsheets. And so, you always hear talk about 70, 80, 90% of the budget is personnel. And so I kind of broke down every department and what the overall budget is and how much of it is attributed to benefits. And even when you factor in things like, IT equipment, IT services, that sort of thing, and other equipment, when you factor all that in, it's still about 70% of this budget is pay and benefits. So.
I think quite is paying, 70% is paying, what was the last thing you said?
For salaries and benefits.
Okay.
Any questions on the budget update? Comments? Seeing none. New agenda items, commissioners only?
No.
Seeing none. Finance reporting.
As of today, we're 18 heads in openings in different towns. All the departments are running favorable to the plan. We're still on track for the general plan to be roughly $1 million favorable to current year budget. When it comes to the jail looks like it will be at break even in the sense that we won't need any undesignated fund balance this year's budget. So we'll be able to carry over those fund balances to help for future years. So financially, we're still pretty stable.
Questions or comments? Thank you. Administrator report?
So you have my bullet points in your packets. As I said, I did enjoy the process of meeting with each one of the department heads and their teams to discuss their plans for the future, staffing needs, that sort of thing. I've taken a little time to draft some changes to the personnel policy in regards to terminations and resignations. You'll be seeing that in upcoming meetings. And we have scheduled a abatement appeal hearing for March 20th for folks in Palmyra. And so some of the abatements that were initially denied, the town of Palmyra took a look at those again, and I think they negotiated some terms with the taxpayers on some of them, but there are others that probably will persist to the point where they'll come before you. I haven't heard from the leader of that group. I believe he's on vacation, so I've kind of penciled in March 20th because that's when the assessors for the town of Palmyra, Garnet Robinson and his team, are available. So just want to make you aware of that.
So when do you think we're going to have an abatement hearing?
Right now it would be March 20th.
Okay.
So
And we'll have the material ahead of time and.
Yes,
set.
that's what I'm waiting on the person that's made the appeal, because he'll need to get all the documentation in at least 10 days before that, so.
Okay, thank you. Deeds, Tanya,
No updates.
no updates, okay. And SEDC, Christian,
We have some discussion further down, so it won't take too much time. We continue to still take finance discussions with spinning off other partners. And then a lot of discussions with a couple other projects, trying to get to startup and opening. It's been, since the pandemic, very tricky to renovate and construct a manufacturing facility with, you know, all the parts globally, trying to get in. Financing was tricky, and there's just a lot to it, so some of the bigger projects need some more attention, so we've been doing that the last few weeks. And our broadband program continues in year 2. We're training a lot of individuals on digital skills. We actually have weekly classes at the jail. That's probably our biggest attendance. And, we're just visiting every town right now, sharing the information and the program.
any questions, concerns? Unorganized territories, David.
2 things, the gravel pit license for Woodpecker Logging Gravel Pit in Lexington is underway. I've got a rough draft in form right now. I have contacted the state for this historical society. Needs to make sure there was nothing historical on the lot. And since this is a after the fact approval we're looking for, I visited the gravel pit and there's nothing in sight. It's pretty flat and a little bit of snow on it when I was up there. There are a few problems because some of the boundary issues weren't followed the way they should have been, so I think we're a little close on some of the boundaries. We're gonna have to see if we can make corrective actions on that, or if they'll just let it go since it's already happened. The other thing that I sent out today was RFPs for geotextile fabric. We have 2 road projects coming up this summer, and we figured we'd get the fabric and get some prices and go from there. Right now, we're just asking for bids, and they'll come in April. So they'll come in front of you to be opened, and we can make a decision at that time on if we accept one and move forward with the work we have planned for.
Great. Any questions or comments? None? Jail, Major Pike.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Currently have 8 openings at the jail. We're continuing to cruise along slow and steady. We did have a couple of more new employees start yesterday, so we're maintaining. We have 3 currently at the Maine Criminal Justice Academy attending training. Their graduation is Friday, and I will be the commencement speaker at the graduation on Friday. Other than that, it's business as usual.
How long is the corrections officer training course?
It's 5 years. It's 200 hours of training. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Sheriff's Office.
Calls for service, patrol handled 359 calls for service last week. And since the last meeting, we've been able to execute a search warrant in Orange Walk on another illegal grow operation. We just got, as of today, just got information from the academy that the buyout for a new officer coming out of the academy is $47,000. And You may or may not have read the Sublocade project that we're doing at the jail. It was picked up today in a national publication called RHI Hub, which is an acronym for Rural Health Information Hub, about the jail project.
Congratulations on that project. It's good work. Thank you.
Well, thank you, but it's always a team effort.
Yeah.
You all are included, so.
I did receive another media inquiry this afternoon from another media source interested in doing a story on the program. I've spoken to the sheriff, and they're coming in a couple of weeks to do a story.
Very good. Great.
When they're done the program and they're out in the civilian world, what backup do they have?
So there is a transition program, Commissioner Johnson. We do have a partnership with Reddington Fairview for ongoing Sublocade treatment once they re-enter their community. It seems to be successful thus far. I think the big win and takeaway from this program is we haven't had any deaths resultant from an overdose of people that have been in the program.
Invariably, Mike, aren't they all on probation too?
Not necessarily. Some inmates that were in our facility will be transferred to other facilities. They don't all necessarily end up back in the community.
But the ones that do,
But treatment,
I would think would be on probation.
yeah, and treatment oftentimes is part of probation conditions, as you know, Commissioner Alsop, but what specific type of treatment, it doesn't usually say. And
They're not just checking, I'm just harking back to prior experience, they'll just automatically check a box saying you shall continue with drug treatment program established by jail?
Based on my prior experience.
You and I both,
It's usually, the language is to the satisfaction of probation and parole. So it could be, it could be outpatient treatment, it could possibly be inpatient treatment, it could be medication-assisted treatment. It really is dependent upon the individual. But normally the court doesn't specify MAT, for example.
But do our local probation officers, knowledgeable about the program, they would?
I believe so. I mean, I haven't had any specific conversations with them about our MAT program, but
Maybe that's a good idea.
It is an emerging field in corrections, so I would presume.
So is the treatment mandated on release and then have to be reported if they don't show up to that treatment?
If it is a probation condition, yes.
But what we're seeing is, so Suboxone is a daily, you take that daily.
Yeah.
And so the people reporting to the physician for Suboxone is a lot less than those that are getting Sublocade. It's really high, the people that are 7 out of 10.
And people that are on the Sublocade program seem to genuinely want the treatment. So we haven't had an issue with people not, thus far, I mean, we're still fairly early on, but haven't had a significant issue with people not following up on treatment. They generally want to continue the treatment because it's simple and it's effective.
Well, at the risk of sort of, I don't know, it seems like if inmate A is discharged from his 9-month sentence or whatever, and he's really bought into the sublocade program, and he's got 2 years of probation to follow, it just seems to me at a very early stage, the probation officer ought to be advised that he's on sublocade and is coordinated with the jail, and not just leave it up to the probation officer, oh, well, I don't really care what you do as long as you report.
Well, we do have a case manager at the jail that does reentry.
Yeah, I mean, there's some coordination, I assume.
Yes, there is some coordination with inmates that are transitioning back to, there's a lot of coordination
Yeah, good.
with inmates that are transitioning back to the community.
If I could just add something I learned more about today. I met with Betsy Richard, who works with Somerset Public Health. And with new grant funding that she has, she's been doing opioid work for years. And Somerset Public Health has opened up 2 drop-in centers in Madison and Bingham that are resources for folks to come. Not only the folks that are dealing with addiction, but also their loved ones and families. And Betsy has an office in the county jail right now. And she researches dispatch logs. She's reaching out to deputies if there has been a substance abuse issue in this arrest. And she's also working with the teams that are sending folks back out, making sure that they're connected to resources. And this type of work, whether it's done by the probation officer, or someone like Betsy, or a combination thereof, has to be so intentional and repetitious because it's a state of stress. And when you're in a state of stress, you're only hearing about 5% of what's coming at you. And so I really am appreciative of the sheriff working with Somerset Public Health to have somebody there that's kind of that added resource to talk to folks as they come in and as they go out.
So one of the biggest benefits to this program is also the mental health side of the issue, which greatly improves because of this method of treatment, so.
Yeah, this collaboration that we did with Somerset Health, we took that on probably within the last, it was at the end of 2023 that we signed an agreement to work with Somerset Health on their grant, and we embedded Betsy Richards right inside the jail. And it's a not only is she now working with the jail and that coordinator, but she's also working, as it's already been articulated, that the deputies now have a resource that they can try to do intervention with.
So when they're released from the jail, and they're transitioning into society, as far as the cost of that program, how is that transitioned? Is she working with that?
So it was very important that we partnered with the state in the inception of this, because once you are incarcerated right now, your main care gets suspended. So we as a county, the state's already put about $1 million into this pilot program. I'm hoping to get some of the funds to continue that. But once you get your main care back, main care pays for that shot.
So when that, how quickly does that happen? So does that happen fairly quickly?
We've been working with DHHS on an MOU. It used to be like a 2-week lag. We have people inside the jail now in our programs division that are working with the inmates prior to the release to get that activated. We're working with Peter Marchese, our attorney, just to make sure we have the language right, but we're working so that upon release, that main care is active. But the other important piece of this is this subrogate is we make sure it's good for 28 days, and there's an argument that could be a little longer. We make sure you have that on board before you leave. So even if there was a little bit of delay before you could see your PCP or get your main care reenacted, you still have protection against the opiates.
And Dale, did that legislation die that was going to make?
No, so what's going on right now?
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I testified on that. That passed through the legislature. It gave the legislature told DHHS they had a year to go after that waiver. So they're working on that information right now, and apparently they have a year to do it, to submit that information to the federal government to get the waiver so that your main care or Medicare is not suspended while incarcerated. That will also help, if we're successful with that. I'm hoping that it'll also reduce our medical costs, because we can bill, where instead of just absorbing the cost directly by the county taxpayer, we'll have an entity, main care, we can bill some of those services out to.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Is that it? Any questions, comments? Thank you. Communications, Tammy.
Good afternoon.
we had a successful weekend. We've got Coburn back on. Yankee went up and did some tree management, opened up the solar panels. It's actually even activated the wind generator they have up there that's creating a trickle charge. So that was good news over the weekend. Continuing to work on data conversion for our new CAD system, validating that information from the new system to our current system. And outside of that, we're down one person, but thank you for your approval at the last meeting. We already had that one of those folks has already got a week and a half under his belt, so I appreciate that.
Great. Is there someone from the district attorney's office? IT services, Pavel.
So we have 116 cameras installed at the jail. So just 3 cameras left to complete the camera project. Courthouse firewall is going to be installed like next week on Thursday. Internet upgrade to the jail that's completed. We're still waiting for them to complete the internet upgrade for the courthouse. And for EOC project, the networking refresher hardware that has been ordered, we're just waiting for them to be able to implement this on site.
Questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
And EMA, Mike Smith.
I'm gonna stand up just because I'm back here in the corner. We continue to move forward, actually pretty quickly with the update on the hazard mitigation plan. The contractor's already submitted to me the first draft of the rewrite on the risk assessment section, which is about 33 pages of the plan. So it's a fair amount of work done already, and he continues to plug away at that. We also continue to plan for the solar eclipse, and I know you're probably tired of hearing this, but it's really just starting to hit in some other counties the fact, and actually municipalities, who are in the path that this is actually going to happen. And so we met last week, Tammy, the sheriff, myself, and other forestry, border patrol, water service, state police. We all met to kind of talk about the setup in the EOC up there on the day of the event, and looking at coverage and the potential of a unified command and having representatives from each one of those agencies within the EOC to kind of share information back and forth. So thank you, Sheriff. It was good to have that conversation. So as far as the December storm goes, the requests for public assistance from the municipalities must be done by February 29th. So we're working to try to make sure that every municipality gets into the grants portal, gets that taken care of, so that we're ready to go. And after that, within a couple, 3 weeks, hopefully, they'll all be assigned project managers, and they'll start moving forward with some of the project assessments from that storm. What's happening much quicker than the public assistance is the individual assistance. FEMA still has the DRC set up within inside the EOC. And as of yesterday, for Somerset County, there'd already been about $447,000 approved for repairs and replacement, $65,000 for rental assistance, $10,000 for mold restoration, $103,000 for other assistance, which falls under personal property and critical needs, and then a total of $626,000 that already been approved for Somerset County residents on the individual assistance side. So that's gone right back into people's accounts. And I can tell you that's a small number probably compared to what will be at the end, because there have been over 130 applications done online. So those are a little bit different than coming into the DRC or meeting with the teams that are out in the field. So those will take a little bit longer to process because there'll have to be assessments done, So hopefully, as we keep moving forward, we'll see more of that. We've had 95 people come in and process through the DRC and the EOC, so it's working well. Hopefully they learn that Sundays is quiet. 2 Sundays in a row we've had 0 people, so maybe they trim back a little bit on that, but that's their call at this point.
So, question on the eclipse. Has the good coordination with the railroads not to park their train on
As I
201?
understand from the last meeting, the railroad will not be sending the train through that day. I know Chief Jarvis had been working with them and hadn't gotten a commitment prior to that, but as I understand it, he has a commitment from them now that there will not be a train that day. And he also has commitment from a number of the pulp companies already to not put trucks over the road after 8 o'clock that morning. So it seems to be coming together. CMP has agreed to set stage trucks up through the 201 corridor, so that if it happens to be a bad day and we've got accidents, they're gonna be there to respond and not have to come from Skowhegan through everything and get into Jackman. So it's been pretty well planned. One of the links that we had been missing was DOT, but we finally been able to bring somebody into that discussion. And hopefully, you know, I mean, we've got the red barn coming with that truck. Everything's gonna be outfitted.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody I missed? Seeing none? New business, resolution 2444, to approve the resolution regarding the Somerset County Economic Development Tax Increment Financing District and Development Program as presented.
So moved.
So moved.
You have a second? I'll let you guys find out who it was. Any discussion? All in favor? Let's go. Resolution 2445, to authorize a letter of support for the Somerset Register of Deeds Office regarding the Maine Revenue Tax Portal.
To move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Resolution 2446, to acknowledge the resignations of county employees from the Communications Center and the Somerset County Jail.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Let's go. Resolution 2447, to approve the Somerset County loan agreement with the Somerset Economic Development Corporation.
Second.
Discussion? Tim?
I just wanted to add some information here. This is kind of a follow-up to the conversations at the two previous meetings regarding the $100,000 match to the loan that SEDC did to the spinning mill. And this letter is something that our auditors have been asking for a couple of sessions now when we do the audit, since the county has kind of partnered with SEDC on several loans now over the last couple of years. The auditors would like this kind of written agreement. So Christian drafted this letter. I made a little edit to it to just, and the highlighted area there is something that had been discussed between SEDC and the commissioners before, but I wanted to make it part of this agreement, that it will be the policy of the county to allow SEDC to keep 1% of the interest paid to cover administrative costs. Now, going back, there have been some arrangements made in past loans that are on this spreadsheet that you have in your packets. But I think simplifying it going forward, Christian and I are in agreement that just having it in policy that they keep 1% of administrative costs makes it easier than some of these are divvied up 60-40, they keep 60% of the interest, we keep 40%, so it's confusing. And some of them are only, there's nothing stated that the SEDC would get anything. So I just wanted to make it clear that we were adding this policy of this 1% into this agreement, if you're okay with that. The other thing I'll draw to your attention is on this spreadsheet, I was a little too aggressive when I updated. I should have just been patient and let Christian do it. But the High Tide Capital loan, that should only reflect $100,000, because this spreadsheet is the county's, what the county has for their stake in these loans. So even though it's a $200,000 loan that SEDC is administrating, the county's portion is only $100,000. I put 200 by mistake in there. And so moving forward, whatever the principal that is paid back and whatever the interest over 1% is earned every quarter, that'll be transferred from SEDC back to the county. And we'll talk about it in the future when we have an opportunity as to where that money should go. Ideally, if it was a community benefit money that came from, it should go back into the community benefit account to allow truly a revolving loan where you now have more money to either gift or loan to folks throughout the county. So I just want to give you a little background, because that's more than what we discussed at the last meeting.
So I want to make sure I fully understand paragraph 3 here. It says, if borrowers are unable to pay back this loan or the business closes, the county loan will be considered forgiven, leaving SCDC harmless in any debt repayment. So,
So if we have, say, the high tide capital, we have 100,000 and the county has 100.
yeah,
If for some reason that goes into default, we try to collect as much as we can. Essentially, that we're 50-50 partners on that. Whatever we receive, we split. But we don't want SCDC to be held liable for the remaining 85,000, whatever the loss is, right? So as you can see, with the high tide capital now, we're approaching $1 million in management. My organization and board's concern is being held liable for that, because what this started was partnering with our loans. There's always, risk involved with commercial loans, but that's just fairly simply put of, we're managing these funds. If this goes belly up, we can't give you $965,000.
CYA.
So
but you are saying that we split everything up to that point, and then when there's no more money available, we both
correct.
get stuck, equally stuck.
Yeah.
Or we levy against the property, or,
Yeah, we haven't had to do that.
yeah, that would,
Tenure, so we
yeah.
have good success with that, but it's part of the finance world. for sure.
So,
But this doesn't really,
I understand that this protects Somerset County economic development, so I would rather have that read that the county will leave SEDC harmless in any debt repayment. And strike, the county loan will be considered forgiven.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
no reason that it should be considered forgiven. It's just that we'd leave SEDC harmless.
Any more than SEDC's loan should be considered forgiven.
Right, so,
So, yeah.
so I would strike that. I couldn't accept this letter as it is.
I agree.
Just another clarification. I probably should have taken that out of the notes. So the spreadsheet, and I haven't seen things updated. The only thing you can change is the high tide injection. So if you follow the GoLab in the notes, it says 50% of Somerset County. We pulled this from our own spreadsheet. So the county has 200,000 into GoLab, as do we. So that's we treat this loan a $400,000 loan. 200 is SCDC's, 200 is the county. That's where the 50% comes in. So it does reflect your full amount, the 150,000 plus the additional disbursement of 50. Same thing with the Maine plywood underneath. We have, the reason that's a 60-40 is we have 150,000 in it. The county has 100, so it's a 60-40 split. So I'd probably not pay too much attention to the percentages on there. This reflects the county's funds and portions of it, just for clarification, so.
All right, again, just to make sure I understand, this spreadsheet here, this is all county, not SEDC,
Correct.
except for high tide capital. That should say 100.
Should read 100.
Should read 100, okay, got it.
And we have some money to send you, so that's the good news. We paid 50,000 so far, and whenever you guys want, probably whenever we can.
Get the check.
Patrick's very bullish on this, so we'll get the check pretty soon.
Right away.
But you can see now,
Sooner's better than later.
Give them the habit.
160,000 or so coming back to fund future projects. So again, we appreciate the support.
So just for my notes, would you rather that sentence in paragraph 3 read, the county will hold SEDC harmless in any debt repayment, or just hold harmless? You want that second sentence, or the second half of that sentence to be debt repayment.
But what we're trying to say is the county's not going to go after SEDC.
Right.
So it's going to hold SEDC harmless from any, in the event of default of high tide capital. I don't know, I got to
As it is, just as debt repayment, because we're not going to go after them, but we're not going to forgive the loan.
Right.
We're not loaning any money to SEDC anyway, they're handling the loan for us.
Right.
So it's not,
Yeah, we're not seeking contribution from SEDC for loan repayment, or that's sort of what we're saying, right?
So do you want it, that entire third paragraph struck? Or do you want something that says they'll be held harmless?
oh, I see. Yeah, we would just strike the whole paragraph.
Strike the whole paragraph?
Yeah.
That's what I would do, yeah.
I will bring you a cleaned up version at the next meeting to sign.
Great, yeah.
Okay.
And that way, I think the auditors will be happy
Yeah.
to see that, too. Sounds like that. All right.
So you do have a motion and a second out there to accept this. So you can either accept it as amended or vote it down now and bring it back at the next meeting. So administratively, it's up to you.
I'm not gonna vote in favor of accepting it to this point, so I'm in favor of voting it down.
So we'll vote it down then.
The next meeting.
Yeah, do it in the next
Bring
meeting.
it up,
Okay,
yeah,
so-
with the new
so the-
edited version.
We do have a motion, so the vote is all in favor? Any opposed? All right, we'll see you next meeting.
Do we just name?
Which brings us to Resolution 2448, to approve the promotion of Ariana Bort to compliance and training assistance for the Somerset County Jail.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Let's go. Capital Reserve expenditures, to approve the transfer of $50,000 from the UT TIF fund to capital account number 403403, radio equipment.
So moved.
Second.
Do you want to explain this, please?
This came up in our budget conversations with Communications, and it was also alluded to in the previous meeting during the department head reports of concerns about Rockwood and other areas up in the UT. And Mike and Tammy have identified the towers that are either located in the UT or directly impact the UT. And instead of waiting for several months to raise more capital through the budget process, we figured that there's at least 5 radio towers that impact the UT. If you allocate $10,000 per tower to get the new radios, batteries, things fixed up, like you already alluded to, maybe just trimming some trees, getting them up there, now you can start planning this now rather than waiting 6 months till the budget's approved. So that was our recommendation, the department heads, myself, Patrick, because it was already alluded to in the last, and Dave's in support of it as well. We thought we would bring this to the commissioners to see if you wanted to ramp up this project on behalf of those that are dependent on those radios up in the UT.
And it falls into our safety section of the, so, yeah.
And in this situation, you're just gonna have the money sitting there in the buckets for when there's some bids done and that sort of thing, so it's ready to go.
So right now, when you study that detailed capital page at the end of your packet, you'll see that Comm Center has been raising money for this project for several years, and they're putting aside $30,000 in 26, 27, 28, 29. So the $65,000 sitting in the bank they can use right now. Our suggestion was, let's pull 50 from TIF right now, and then they can go out and start getting quotes, start getting contractors lined up. Because that's the hard work, is getting people up to that point in the UT to do this work. So that's why we wanted to speed up this process.
And once again, asking a complete ignorance, these are radio towers,
I'll defer to Tammy.
okay, that we use for our radios,
Yes.
for the comm center. They're not cell phone towers or anything else. And how many towers does Somerset County have?
11.
11 throughout the entire county for our communication system.
and that's fire, police, and EMS.
Right. And do the other towers that are not in the UT, do they also need, or, that's just going through the regular budget process?
That is
Okay.
our regular.
I think I get it.
Anything goes wrong, that comes out of our regular line.
So there is in your packet a list of all the towers with addresses if you'd like.
Yeah, okay.
Visit.
Silly me, I was late at the meeting. Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the transfer? Okay, so go. Resolution 2450 to approve the reallocation of $350,000 from capital account number 4039-04, dark fiber, to capital account 4043-02, the HP server equipment. Discussion on this. Did you?
So Pavel and I can probably bring you up to speed on this. This was another result of our conversations as far as budgeting. And as you're probably aware, a few years ago, the county set aside $875,000 to purchase the remainder of what they would consider dark fiber or dedicated fiber that would complete the loop. Right now, the county owns dedicated fiber from the jail to the courthouse to the comm center, but they don't own dedicated fiber to complete that loop. In the case that one of those entities went down, the traffic on the network could continue to function. We ran into a little issue with this when the generator went down here at the courthouse during the December storm, and that affected the servers here, which affected the comm center's ability to get email and so on and so forth. So this is a priority project. It has become increasingly expensive for the county to buy all of that fiber that's their own. So we're looking with Consolidated at a couple of different options. We're actually meeting with some folks tomorrow. And if the commissioners don't want to dedicate more money to this dark fiber, then we should be able to reallocate some of that $875,000 to other more pressing IT needs that, again, we could raise through the budget, through capital, or we could move them now and allow Pavel and his team to start the process of getting our servers updated, which is recommended every 5 years, and our servers were installed in 2018. And so we're due. This was another one very similar to the comm center, where if you look at that capital budget, we were going to try to just chip away at it over the next few years, where after talking with Patrick and Pavel, why don't we move some of that money out of that dark fiber project and put it into this project? So we're just pulling it ahead. That's what the recommendation is.
The dark fiber project was stalled mostly because of insurance costs that were asked for by the building owners?
So, correct. Geographically speaking, you would have to go from the jail down 148 in Madison to Ward Hill Road, come down Ward Hill Road to Norwich Walk, and then come up the River Road in Skowhegan to meet the comm center. All of that is owned currently by either Consolidated or TDS. If the county wanted to say, we own fiber, we're going to build new fiber for that connection system, that's going to be over $1.5 million now, because you have to pay insurance, you have to pay licensing, and you have to pay a pole permit fee to TDS and Consolidated. So it's what doubles the cost is all the licensing. The actual pulling of that fiber is $400,000 or $500,000 by itself. So Consolidated is looking at giving us a couple other options that are not dedicated dark fiber options, but may accomplish the same thing. What you're really buying is insurance that you can get your internet traffic from one place to the other within the county if something goes down at the jail, the courthouse, or the comm center.
But we don't need to move that money now.
We brought it to this meeting hoping that you would move it, or at least approve moving it so that Pavel could start this project now, getting quotes, getting RFPs, whatever needs to be done, he could start doing it now. Because again, there's, how much money is in the account to do this server update right now, Ben?
Right now,
$56,298.55.
It's about 50 or 60,000, right?
Just happen to be looking at that right now.
And there's $873,000 in the dark fiber account.
Right. So the theory is move 350 over, leave 500,000 in dark fiber to consider what Consolidated has to offer, but get the server project kickstarted.
Well, we could still do that without moving the money, with the RFPs coming in. We still have to have that step first anyway. And then we could move the money as needed. Should we accept the RFPs?
well, you're not really gonna be sending an RFP per se, because we have a company that does all our system upgrades. They know our system, they monitor our system. So it's not something that we actually send out for RFP, it's really a quote from them. Because to have someone else come in and do this project that has no idea what our system, how our system is set up, costs a lot.
Okay, that's not, they can still set up the system, it's just a matter of the equipment.
Well, the equipment, the people that we use to do this project, Pavel goes behind them and checks the cost of the equipment, so they don't price gouges when it comes to the equipment. The majority of the, I guess, the cost that we end up paying more than we would if someone else's labor.
Why do we have $850,000 in the dark fiber account?
Back before COVID, we had a quote, roughly $850,000 to do that loop. We had a person, and we had a contractor.
So this is the same loop we're talking about?
Yeah, we had a contractor lined up that had the fiber in his warehouse, was willing to do it, but with the stalling of all the getting limited liability insurances and all that, speed ahead, we're after COVID, now it's gonna be close to 1.5 or more to do the same project.
So at some point in the future, we have to raise another $700,000?
No, what Tim is saying is we're actually meeting with Consolidated to see what other avenues we have.
Yeah, that's why.
Because I don't, unless the commissioners say 1.5 million or 1.7 million is okay, then we'll look at raising another
I'm just trying to work this through.
$800,000.
So if we don't have, if this dark fiber account has $850,000, we're talking about reducing it down to $500,000. Does that disadvantage us in some way as to the total completion of the project because we're spending so much on the server? I have no idea how all this stuff works, so.
It essentially kills the project.
Apologize for sounding silly.
We've only got one
The real question is, do you
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to have our own dedicated fiber at 1.5, 1.7, wherever it comes in? If the answer is no, then
What's the alternative?
the alternative is, we got a meeting tomorrow to discuss the alternative. But the assumption was the pill for 1.7, 1.8 million own dark fiber was too big a pill to swallow.
Well,
So we're looking at ways that will benefit the county with the utilization of these funds. And one of the projects that we need to do is upgrade our host servers. And that's roughly $350,000 to do.
but that is separate and apart from this dark
Yes,
fiber, okay.
yes. It's just utilizing those funds for a project that we have.
But it's, just so I understand, is it, I don't know what the alternative is, but we either own our own dedicated dark fiber cable for our own personal internet communications and nobody else gets to use them, and we don't have to rely on anybody else.
Right.
In the event that there's some catastrophe that causes our what? I mean, in the event that the regular internet is no longer serviceable, so we can kick in our own personal internet? I mean-
In the event of an accident through a vehicular or storm that damages the pole.
Yeah.
So
The
right-
pole with our line on it?
Right. So right
So what
now-
good is it to have our line if our line can be?
So-
There's a circle.
Oh, okay, so it's,
There's,
So the
you know, different
expense-
sections.
Oh, okay.
You break one section, it will go over the other one.
but the alternative would be, well, we just use, we're stuck in the same internet problem that everybody else has.
Right.
Okay.
So the existing dark fiber that goes from the comm center here to the jail, I'm assuming was installed when the jail was built. And those costs were covered with the jail construction. But it was never completed in a loop because that would have cost a significant amount of money more. You know, in hindsight being 2020, maybe you should have done it back in 2008, right? But, so now the concern is, are there ways to ensure that these buildings can communicate with each other in the event that the power grid on the island is underwater, like it was for 2 days back in December? Or if there's an accident that takes out one of the poles that is so key to everybody, consolidated, you know, everybody that's on that pole. So by creating that loop, so the focus had been for the last few years, dedicated our own fiber, whatever it costs to make that loop ours. Consolidated is saying, there's a couple other options. You can utilize cloud-based options that don't require the dark fiber, or Consolidated will run dark fiber for you, but it's not all yours. They'll sell you a strand within that fiber. So those are the less expensive options. It's kind of like, do you want to buy that car and you own it until the wheels fall off, or do you want to lease the car?
So I think, I mean, I guess, I'm just suggesting, what you're recommending is that we take some of this money, which we may hopefully not have to spend on this very expensive sort of safety redundancy.
Right.
And use it to fix the servers, which are in need of fix-up right now. Okay. Thank you for.
The other question I have is, why does it go all the way to Madison to Norwalk, then down? Why doesn't it just come down Skowhegan and over?
Because you're using the same poles.
Same
poles.
It's the same
You
pole?
have to avoid stringing the same pole.
I understand that, yeah. I didn't realize you were using the same poles, that there was a different.
So you're gonna have more information after the meeting tomorrow. So what does a 2-week delay between now and our next meeting, how does that affect?
Yep, gives us 2 weeks to tighten up some of our numbers. Really, we were just kind of putting this before you because it came out of our budget discussions, and we thought it was an idea worth discussing. So.
Well, I think it's been a great discussion, too. I think I understand this a lot more than I did before we started. So let's wait 2 weeks.
There is no.
I'd just be more comfortable with more information after tomorrow's meeting.
We do have a motion.
You do not have a motion.
We don't have a motion. Oh, good. Then there's
We need one more to move it, though. I can table it until.
let's just forget about it.
Forget about it.
Thank you. Doesn't exist.
We'll bring it up. We'll
Over
just
there.
table it till next, we should have a motion to table it to the next meeting.
I'd move we table it to the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Good, it's a go.
I'm gonna just give it back to you.
Well, we're gonna tighten it up, don't worry. Yeah. The audience missed that. So did you table it?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was unanimous.
All right, so, warrants, resolution 2451 to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail, unorganized territory, there it's spelled right. TIF tax revenue and TIF community benefit for a total of $378,294.22.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? And let's go miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only. Anybody?
Nada.
Nothing? Okay. Moving on, a 5-minute recess before executive session.
So here's my question. That seems to be a lot of money to spend on the table. Can't we just take a one call if there's a cruiser just driving down? We have to spend
I don't think it's just a simply phone call sometimes.
Well, is it
I
to
think
keep the
it's
whole system up and running, or is that?
be a good question for that. I mean, there's, obviously, it's internet stuff, right? I mean, you've got computers going, you've got all that communication stuff happening.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, you've been in the comm center, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, there's a lot of shit going on there.
I just don't know whether this is what they're talking about. Is this extra? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sort of two separate things here. One, do we keep the whole system up and running? If somebody drives into a pole on Madison Avenue, which has our dark fiber headed to the courthouse,
I think it's just,
that doesn't shut down the whole comm center, does it?
That'll just be signature, just indicated that public hearing.
The link between them.
Yeah, I don't get it. That's totally confused me. So,
They're smart in so many other ways.
well, so if somebody runs into a pole on Madison Avenue while eating an ice cream cone, they just got a gift from somebody, and the fiber link between Yale, the comm center, and the courthouse is broken, that doesn't mean the whole comm center comes down. It's not functioning.
It just means the link between the server, which is in this building, and the comm center. They can't get their emails, it just affects their ability.
They can't get their emails from here or
They
from
can't get their
anywhere.
emails from anywhere.
oh, I gotta go to
Because the emails go to the server that's in this building.
I gotta go to your.
That's all right, I said
If something
5
happens
minutes, so we got
between here
to
and the
20.
comm center, we could reroute.
I will wait till you
Go all the
come
way
back
around the jail,
anyway.
Norwich Walk, and come back to the comm center. If something happens.
So besides emails, what else is running through there?
The jail would be a real big problem because of all of the,
That's okay. That's all right, it's the same time, it's the same time.
would be a problem as well. Because everyone, the jail, the courts, they all have their dedicated stuff that's housed on these servers here.
Right.
Maybe the court should pay for this.
So,
Just saying.
yeah. So, but at the end of the day.
Where do they get their money?
You're really-
Same place this money's coming from.
No, they don't squeeze it out.
No, actually not, that's right there.
Exactly, right.
No,
It's not the same place.
yeah.
Ours comes from taxpayer, property tax,
Right.
not from sales tax or income
Right.
tax.
Yeah. I don't know, I bet there's got to be a cheaper way. That seems kind of antiquated, the idea of running a cable all the way around Somerset County.
And that's what consolidated the triangle.
Public hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would be interesting, see what they've got to offer with, and the guarantees.
Right. Sure.
'Cause that's the other thing, we have our own system. When something happens to that, we've got to hire somebody.
How many interruptions have there been since it was installed?
Since I've been here. It was last December, so.
What was it, in the time before that? Has there been a lot of that? Do you know,
It
Sharon?
was before there was internet, so it didn't matter.
Didn't Al Gore?
Go on if it happens.
Yes, he did.
Go,
Your buddy.
it could happen, and
You have to sign that. Oh, wait a minute.
Iowa, I'm sorry. Get some catching up to do.
So our first four
There you go, this one. Yeah, okay, there you go.
She's home, her kid's sick.
Hi,
Hi there.
you're looking over my shoulder, or you're staring me in the face, I don't know which is
We'll do better. All right,
Are you on a Caribbean vacation, or?
My daughter's birthday today gave me COVID.
House, no fun.
yeah, hope she's feeling better soon.
I still haven't had that thing.
You probably have, you just didn't get tested, the rest of it.
I never felt sick.
Okay,
Careful what COVID is.
I think I was born
I
alone.
probably haven't. Had.
I know.
as, are,
Yep, I'll show
you're on the way?
These are the
We're ready.
We're ready. But you have to,
We're ready for them.
take a vote to go into executive session.
I know, but it's still public.
Right. It's still public right now.
Yeah.
Come on in.
Because if we go into executive session, we'll close the door.
A seat right up there, so they can see.
All right, we have executive session, Title 1, Section 4056A, Personnel, Somerset County Jail, FMLA. Motion?
So move.
Second? Discussion, all in favor? All right. Thank you, Seth.